Yeah, round like a pizza. We are going to be tossing our dough today.
How much do you want to change behavior? And I think usually you don't.
And it's what we would say more was an evolution than a revolution.
I also think the context of eating pizza is also pretty universal.
We don't talk about sonic branding too much.
They're sort of like teasing these feature sections. I did, however,
Oh,
find a new piece.
hang on
Uh-oh.
1 second.
Oh, get out of here. You did not. Welcome back, I suppose, or welcome to the first time to a brand design critique podcast. My name is Caleb Dean, and I'm here with Miles Seiden of Miles Seiden Creative, who's going to round me out big time. I think, Miles, you have a lot more big agency credibility and practice and headspace than I do, and I'm excited to chat with you today about Domino's, which launched a couple weeks ago. And when we were talking, I think we're both really excited. So, Miles, how's it going? Maybe just a quick hope you're feeling well, and then we just dive right into it.
I am, and thank you, Caleb. Appreciate that intro. Yeah, round like a pizza. We are going to be tossing our dough today. Just looking at what's a really exciting rebrand because I always have a critical eye. I tend to break things so that I can fix them, and that's what happens in the branding world. And like we had talked about earlier, this is one that is done so well that there's really not actually much to pick apart. So it's fun to talk about something that we both really enjoy, and yeah, I'm doing well. Happy to
Yeah,
just hop in.
good. I agree with you. I don't know if this one's gonna stir the pot quite like a Jaguar or a Cracker Barrel, certainly, but it'll be fun to talk about. It's like a really nice modernization of a rebrand. I'm gonna pull up their launch video, and we'll play it and just hear. Designed to make you say, oh, I'm not going to do the jingle though.
I think Shibuya has got that down. It's
I hope more people talk about it too.
me too.
This is a
I
nice.
mean, it's very nice.
For me, it's a really nice launch video.
It is. It is very fluid. They have highlighted so many things. I mean, not only from the product, the way that they open it up, the way that they have this almost nod to what is it, big band era, or where they would kind of zoom through various people. They have this partnership with Shibuya there.
Hmm.
The sonic branding aspect. Oh, here, this part, yeah, where they hit all the boxes over you know,
Yeah,
like actual
that's like
domino.
such a good, so subtle to have the boxes dominoing. I feel like other brands do that just as like this is a cool transition, but really on the nose for Domino's.
It is. It is. It's really tied in very well, and all these details. It's not like it was. It's what we would say more was an evolution than a revolution.
Yeah.
And what they've evolved though is really nice. They've tightened up the letter forms. They've popped up the colors, like it says, more vibrant. The boxes are done really well. Just the details that you need, and then this
Yeah.
moment of as you pointed out, having that deliciousness right in the middle, pretty much, of the word. Um, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
we could, talk about that because we don't talk about sonic branding too much, as graphic designers, which I always think is somewhat of a funny term, given that we do things other than that. But
There's that one. So this is the clip that actually has Shibuya saying Domino's.
Dominoes.
I think of sonic branding and like where I'm at in Boise, there's just not near as many like environmental sonic branding things the way that there was when I spent time in Chicago. Like if you're in Chicago and you go to the hardware store there, Menards, it's like they play a song and then they play their jingle, their own ads, like "Save big money at
Really?
Menards"
As you're shopping
in
around?
in their own store. Yeah, all the time. So like if you go for like a normal, I don't know how long you go to the hardware store for, but I go for a long time. No
Okay.
matter the size of the project, it's like I'm going to be in there for 30 minutes, which means that I probably hear the jingle 15 or 20 times
Wow.
while shopping. Um, and so,
It's
like,
quite the
anytime you ever
earworm.
hear it after, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to save big money at Menards," even though you're not.
I mean, it takes a bit for something like that to set in. But what's interesting is that they decided to go in this particular direction. Like other large brands, with the exception of Little Caesars, don't have that kind of a thing. So they've kind of veered into that territory, but it's really their own take on this. And this could be something that might be memorable, especially with that partnership, because it's really,
Mhm.
he's in all these different genres. So it's a really good choice in that, he does some country and some hip hop. So it's really going to reach a lot of different people that are interested in different types of sounds.
Yeah. I also think, like, the context of eating pizza is also pretty universal, right? Like, whether you're an NFL fan or a soccer fan, MLS fan, I guess, whatever the occasion for eating pizza, it's like Michael Jordan used to say of his shoes, like Republicans buy sneakers too. It's like everybody buys pizza, and I think
Yes.
like pulling in Shabuzi, who's sort of similarly an artist in multiple categories, that it's like really simple and go to as far as sonic branding goes.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They have an international practice as well, or they've opened different stores in various places. Like I've actually been to one in India because nothing was open, and it was, and I was able to pop in and get a little something to drink. So at the moment, I wasn't hungry for pizza, but I'm curious how people receive in different places. But there's certainly a presence internationally, so it's a smart thing to do something that feels more universal. It gives it a little more credibility in that space too.
Yeah. I wonder, I always am curious about like linguistic translations going from country to country, right? Like, I don't know if Domino's, the word or I imagine the object and the game is fairly universal, or at least like the idea of this like play piece that you work with is pretty universal. But I doubt that
Right.
the word dominoes is universal, right? So I think that that's really interesting. Is it also some sort of way of like training an audience of what your word is if you're not English rooted, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I haven't really thought about that, but just hearing you say that, I'm thinking about mahjong and other games, let's say, that they might
Yeah, yeah,
play
yeah.
in Asia or in different, continents where there is some relationship. Maybe more cultures have tile games, and this is something that is familiar, but it's certainly a familiar brand because they really have it everywhere.
I wanted to talk a little bit too, every because this like letter forms are flashing in front of us, this dominoes going on and on. I wanted, I have in my notes to talk just a little bit about the custom font that they had made. I imagine it's custom. I didn't have any documentation specifically on the typeface, but in the lowercase, I guess in their box shape. Let me see if I can pull up a right slide. In their box shape and something that they're sort of rendering in um, the animations, I really love the little notches that they're cutting out. So like in this larger slide, the for initial stroke of the M and N, having that notch out of that top right bit of the far left stroke feels really nice, but I miss it in the uppercase stuff. Like in their initial
Right.
sizzle roll, it runs, but it's not in any of these letter forms. And I miss it, and I miss maybe that they're, I don't know if it needs to be in every single letter form because that might be heavy, or maybe it could have been in every single letter form as a way to get that notch in there. Maybe it was too dramatic for him, maybe not quite enough. I'm not sure. Maybe hopefully they did it just to look at it.
I mean, they were
Um,
definitely referencing their boxes. That's really smart to take that edge because in the previous version they didn't really have it to that degree. It looks like, speaking to that evolution, that they made small moves that are really nice. Like they condense the D a little bit, and they emphasize those notches. So there's a little more space in the M and the N there.
Yeah,
I did look at in the code a little bit. You could see that they have made their own font. I don't know if this is
sure.
just one off for the logo. Maybe it was the uppercase that they're using there for the rest of the messaging.
Yeah.
But
So
it's really
maybe
nice.
it is like it's still a beautiful typeface, right? And the way they're using it is really nice. It's also like super on trend right now. I feel like there's a ton of big brands who are moving to this like out away from the super tight geometric grotesque sands and into like little more humanist sands. I think they're paying more attention to like device width because everybody's getting this like bold condensed font so you can like squeeze words into tighter spaces, but it
Sure.
feels like super close to like Amazon's new typeface. It feels really close to Kit. ConvertKit just did theirs too. Some of the stuff
Hmm.
that Kodo London has been putting out feels really close to this. Like it's not quite future bold condensed, but it's in the ballpark, right?
It's got that feel. Yeah, it's got that geometry. But here I think it works really well, especially, in the mark itself, because, there's lots of
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
you can read into it. It's almost like you can see a person, you can see a little dialogue,
Hmm.
little quote kind of feel to the apostrophe in there. You can see that
Yeah,
when the O's are in the actual logo, it looks like a pizza. So there's a lot of elements, a little smile on the side. I mean, there's a lot I could read into it that maybe
yeah, yeah,
people who don't do this all the time for a living would just notice, but not necessarily, feel the direct connection that we might because we're thinking about, you know,
yeah.
thoughtfully, like how to make these things read like that. But they've done it, really well. I think you could read that in.
The punctuation is a great comment, right? Like their apostrophes and their periods, like being near perfect circles coming right out of the dots of the domino logo is really lovely. This this is another instance where they're like using that notch of they have this like badge at the top, so they have a little bit more blue, and they're using the notch there, but not that. I guess those are the places where I'm like, oh, I wish they had maybe a second version, a display version that had that
Yeah,
characteristic.
the,
But this is
right.
really lovely. That lowercase m run through there, like that's really lovely.
It's a nice use of the double color too. It's interesting. It does remind me of mobile, oddly enough, just because of the geometry
Oh
of
yeah,
it. Like
yeah,
when it opens like that, because before it had just been, the one blue, but now pulling that open, having that contrast in there because it is a blue and red, which is it's a funny association. I don't know if other people would have seen that, but that immediately called out to me.
yeah.
Like I don't know if
No,
mobile ever did
100%.
a stretch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially in their like jingle tagline where it comes out to say the in the middle and then comes back. That mobile connection. I hadn't made that one yet either. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it doesn't. I don't think it distracts from it, but it is interesting just that parallel because that immediately. I mean, I guess that's old school design though. Mobile's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
That logo hasn't changed for a while, and this does kind of veer into it. Oh, should we get
yeah,
into the digital aspect? Because I know you've been looking at some
yeah.
of that.
So I just wanted to pull up. I just was just on the point of like pulling in the sort of box UI stuff. Here at the top, you can see that banner has those little notches out of it, which is really lovely. And then even in their menu, they're sort of like teasing these feature sections that mirror
Yeah.
that box. And I think like the more they pull that in, the better. Like it feels like it just like reiterates that sort of box shape. Um,
And these are
maybe
just
I've
the subtle things, for anyone who's
yeah,
watching this that doesn't do this for a living, these are things that we really think about. And I think the thing that, I'll speak for myself, but a thing I'm really appreciating about it is the amount of thought that they put into it. And that really does make the difference is to see something where, I see this notch is the same as the angle of the domino. And so, you have all of these elements that are coordinated that are really subtle when you look at it and you're not necessarily registering that because as a customer you would just go in, you're looking for a pizza, but
yeah.
there is something that's really nice that is almost ineffable, that it will be behind the scenes but it's definitely present for the brand as you walk in.
Yeah, 100%. It's really, I mean, it's as far as pizza places go, it's so ownable compared to the market, right? Like we talked about previously just a few other pizza brands that we might talk about and pull up later too. but it's like so unique, and the pairing is like just, I don't know, they just really crushed it, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And before they really leaned into, let's say the menus were kind of all blue and whatnot. So they've really been thoughtful about how they're using all the colors too. You know, having
Yeah,
certain things that are red, certain things that are blue, and not just washing everything in one color because it really gives it a
yeah,
lot more texture, which also is a subtle nod to pizza.
yeah. And UI stuff is so interesting. You said before on our when we were talking in advance of this call that you had a professor once tell you no super graphics. And
No
I think that
super, yeah,
that's like
yeah, it was an old boss. Yeah, that's right. He did not like super graphics, which is just basically blowing up a part of your logo and slapping it everywhere, right? Instead of
yeah,
creating an actual system. So, you know, these little elements like the rounded corners, you know, that feel friendly, or the notched edges, or where they place the colors, you know, that's way more thoughtful than just pulling something out of the logo and just making it big.
yeah. And I think there's like such an interesting distinction or like translation from box, a box brand logo into a digital ordering menu that's in store and a digital ordering menu that's online and on your phone, right? And like there's what they're suggesting here and what they're showing us in these little clips is like so beautifully uniform and such a great systematic extension of what they're trying to do. And just the I don't know, I just look at this and be like, that's freaking gorgeous.
It is. I mean, people don't give Domino's enough credit for that. When you think about it as a customer, you're always going to tend to think of pizza. You know, it's something that's
Yeah,
convenient. You know, in the past they had that whole thing about how fast they could deliver it, but they've always looked into different aspects of the brand, how they can innovate, and one of them really is in their ordering system, which you know it was there before. I think even like DoorDash and Grubhub, a little tracker that you can see where the process is right there,
yeah,
and you know that's still in play, and that's something that they've had for a long time. So yeah, I mean that's really important. Like the systems are important. It's not just about making one product, but like what type of crust, you know, what kind of offering are we going to do to change the game a little bit?
yeah. It's a huge logistics thing, right? I think Domino's and Chipotle in my mind are like have mastered the logistics back end and then present it beautifully in a user interface front end, right? There was
Right.
a lovely quote from Domino's CEO, and I don't know if it was because of this launch or a few years ago. I think it was in this launch, but they said that they view Domino's as a technology company that just happens to sell pizza. And I thought that was
Right.
like such a fantastic, like, okay, like they're leaning really hard into things like you said, the Domino tracker, having an estimated pickup time, and making it so you can just text a local store to pick up pizza. Like from a user experience, that seems like the easiest thing. I remember when they launched that you could just text a pizza emoji to your closest store
Right.
and they'd
Yeah.
send you a pizza. Like that's
Amazing.
insane from a
Yeah.
user experience standpoint.
It's really
Um,
smart. And to your point, it's you want to be the brand that people say, hey, let me make my brand like Domino's, but for whatever other niche. You know, I want to be Chipotle for, you know, Thai food or whatever it is, or I want to be
yeah,
Aaron B for pools or something like that. You know, to do something
yeah, right.
uh, in a different category, but that there is the clear leader in that other category.
I mean, we can wax poetic on that video forever. I just have more images here.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that, and thank you to Domino's actually for making this accessible because sometimes it's
Yeah,
really hard to do this kind of thing when the assets that are provided, you look out there and there's just not a lot to go off of. But they have provided strategy on their website. They've provided these beautiful
yep,
refresh images. So, you know, and thanks for
yeah.
pulling this together. You did a beautiful job here.
I th- I think about that's a good point, the accessibility of this. I think in contrast to like a Cracker Barrel, the way that this gets launched and shown off is so different. I think the Cracker Barrel image and one of the reasons that it hit the fans so hard is because it was just the logo and it was like just trust us on the rest of it. And even though they've been working and implementing all the backend for a couple years prior to the most recent launch stuff, because it didn't come with any of that, it just like, I mean, it, people were up in rage over it.
And
Um,
it's a shame,
eh,
but you can tell how much people either really love something actually that they feel
yeah,
that passionate and angry about that something would change if you don't really educate and have the full launch like it looks like they've been doing here. The only
right,
question for me is how does that work when you're a franchise type business? Because either you drive from corporate all the way down to the specific franchisees, but you can't necessarily force them to spend all the money on like new signage and all these things. So they
right,
probably go just level up with the cheaper things like the boxes or this
right.
or that before they do the full rollout.
Right. I'm sure there's just like a 10-year plan, right? It's like, okay, when your sign gets old, this is the new one that you're going to have to put up, right? Like
Totally, totally.
all that kind of stuff. And I, you know, I also think about there was some outrage over the Austin, Texas's new city identity and how
Oh,
much it
really?
cost. But some of what the cost, because it's like taxpayer dollars. Like all of a sudden, it's like, oh well, I'm paying for this logo, so should I have a voice in it? And I think that a lot of what was in the budget is the execution of it, right? It's like, okay, we're
Sure.
Austin, Texas. We have to, produce even 5,000 signs. Like that's going to have a huge dollar bill attached to it. Like, and
Of
somehow those
course.
things get lumped in
So
and
it's
lumped
really
out.
it's the education as you roll out and the storytelling of that because just like any business it's like what is the return on investment and in that
Hmm.
case right if you're someone that lives in Austin, is it that that's going to help tourism or it's going to help bring influx of new types of restaurants, let's say, into the city or country, whatever it tends to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the, like, even thinking about those recent two launches, like in this Domino's instance, there's almost not a slide of the logo on its own, right? Like every piece of media that they're producing, the only two things that have the logo on its own are in video form. So there's narrative that comes with it, and then these other slides, I've pulled all these images from their press release content, and all of the images have a whole story and narrative to go with it, which is, I think, helps so much people understand what goes into it and like why it's a brighter blue and a brighter red. And
Great. And you bring up a really good point about that too, because it's like, in a brand system, you don't really want to just slap the logo everywhere. It doesn't
mhm,
want to interfere. It just really needs to be an anchor. So, like I see there in the sauces in that image in the upper top, because those are individual things that will be given out, taken home, it makes sense to have something on there, but you really have to be thoughtful about the decision making, like how they've
mhm,
treated the boxes. It actually breaks the logo apart a little bit, which is it's really interesting that they're able to do that. But you still know it's Domino's. It still has that color that's used well, and the dots. The printing is actually very smart there because they've limited the colors, so it's not
yep,
expensive. Yeah, there's
yep,
just a lot of thought that went into this that I'm really impressed by, and I don't say that very often. I see a lot of brands that come out, and there's usually something to pull on, and I mean certainly there are things here that I probably would have done differently. You probably would have done differently, but I think it's so well done. There's really
yeah,
nothing that you would want to say about it
yeah.
in the negative.
It's so minute, the little things that I would, and like I said, some of the things that I would have done differently, I think I for sure would have tried, but I may have just ended up in this kind of a solution anyways, right? Like I haven't done the exploration that I'm sure these larger agencies or the Domino has done together. Because they could have very well had made an entire typeface with the notches cut out of them, like I'm asking for, set the whole thing and been like, nope, it's too much,
Yeah, it could have been too
which
much.
could be.
Another thing I really appreciate about this too is that it's not going into trends. It's so of itself.
Mm,
Like they're doing their own
yes,
thing. I don't see other things that are being done elsewhere. It's just how do we finesse this? How do we tighten up the system? How do we brighten the colors? How do we make sure that this typography feels really good? And that, yeah, as you're looking at the side of a building, that you have this nice textural element. It doesn't all look homogeneous, but it feels consistent.
yeah, yeah, it's really wonderful. I did, however,
Oh,
find a new piece.
hang on
Uh-oh.
one second.
Oh, get out of here. You did not.
Oh, I did. Oh yeah, baby.
Oh my goodness.
So
Podcast
look at
host of
that.
the year. Wow.
Look at that. So
Let me pull
here's
you
the
back
new
up.
box in person.
Wow.
Looks good.
Amazing.
Got a couple things.
Did you in the blue too? Oh,
Yeah, right.
wow. Seriously, podcast co-host of the year.
To be fair, the cheat was that I got it before, but
Did you just have somebody ring the doorbell for you? Just like,
no,
hey,
no,
by
I
the
just
way.
put a little sound effect on the phone here. I thought it would
Amazing.
take too long at the door, you know.
I think you take the cake for the show. I don't even think the rest of the conversation matters as much. That was just the
Oh man.
pre-planning. Okay, but I did find a piece of information about these boxes that I thought was
Oh,
interesting, being
okay.
that uh JKR, Jones Knowles Ritchie, right?
Oh
Reiki?
yeah. Okay. Okay.
I probably slaughtered that. Okay, they did a speculative box design for them in 2016 that looked like
Really
this. These boxes existed in one form before
very
this rebrand. I don't think they ever, I don't think I've ordered pizza from Domino's since prior to 2016, but this new update may have borrowed some of that design
That is really interesting.
from
Now, what they've
Type
done
Kit.
here that's actually really smart, and I'll hold this up for a sec just to demo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Do a
that is
demo.
beautiful. Like that's a designer's dream, like a
Yeah, yeah.
full
The
bleed
full
box.
thing.
Now, the reality is, we could talk about production for a second, right? Is
Yeah.
that like it's cost effective to do this. So sometimes, right, we have to like compromise that absolutely beautiful box because you print on all those little sides, and I mean, it would come in, two-sided cardboard before you fold it, right? But like
Yeah.
that may just be more expensive to do. And so how they've done this with the border is just very nice because, when it's flat, like they're just really using two colors here, the blue and the red, and just
Yeah.
using the white of the box for something like that is very smart.
In this part, JKR had some like designer insight, and they were basically the majority. I think this was a spec design for the UK version of Domino's. So maybe that's why I never saw it. Like I'm not in the UK. Maybe it's been around for 6 years, and I 9 years.
Wow.
Who knows?
So you
Maybe.
think these were actually made, or it was just
I
more
don't
spec?
know.
Like, okay. But
I
the
don't
other
know.
thing too is like if you look at the logo itself, it actually has those borders around. So even doing it in this way, like that they actually have done it in this new push, is reflecting even more on the logo itself.
Yeah, right. But what some of the research that JKR did showed that the majority of orders were two pizzas. So most
Oh,
of the
really?
time, people were ordering two pizzas, which is why they, in this design, chose to do a red one and a blue one, so that aggregate you had the logo, which of
I
course
love.
I'm sure had to have fed into the current version, right? Like the
I'm
newest.
sure, and it's just I love something like that because it's taking an idea and pushing it to its logical conclusion. Like they obviously did the research. That's not something I would have just thought of unless I had actually been working on this project to do that kind of
Yeah,
research. Like, what's your average speed of delivery? Like, you would want to know all those things and then tie in all the things you do visually and sonically into the concept. But I'm actually curious about that luxury looking box. I don't even know what that's for because I was trying to look for what it is for, but I don't know.
the only thing that I had seen was they had mentioned that in some locations they had a more like hand tossed artisanal bread or
Oh,
dough or version of a pizza. So in those cases, apparently you could get this box. I think this is the gold box. It looks awesome,
it
but
does. It
I'm
looks great.
sure that the production cost on that thing goes through the roof compared to the other two or the other versions, right? Like I can't
Right.
imagine gold embossing a bunch of pizza boxes. That seems
Yeah.
like anniversary stuff or like I don't know, special event kind of things.
Or just the cost of whatever that item is, like you're saying, is just more, so they can do, and that
Yeah,
does have the full bleed because you would have to print that in black because this is all going to be the same
right,
cardboard. I mean, I don't know offhand what that would be in terms of a difference,
right,
but it would probably be more, yeah, to do
right. I wonder if in that case, like, I wonder if there's a cardboard manufacturer that just does, a black paper on the side instead of, white paper or whatever. And then, but then the cost of gold embossing it is what seems nuts to me.
Yep, it's quite something. I mean, it's always something that's fun to do, like as a designer. I mean, you want to
Yeah,
do
right.
these things where you have a little effect and something like that. But I do also just like sometimes working within a strict budget, let's say, and figuring out how these would work with a little less money, and that they've done
Yeah.
a lovely job of. What do you think about the sauce colors and stuff like that? Does it looks like they expanded their palette in that particular realm?
Yeah, they're like showing us the color palettes here that's just like super strict red, blue, and then I don't know if it's like pizza doneness levels or whatever you might call it. And then,
Like, oops, a little too much on the right, right?
oh, that's too much. Like, how much do you want your pizza done?
Right.
Caucasian, please. Like, I don't know. The sauce colors, it would be so difficult to break out of the mold of flavor color expectations. Like, I always think about like jalapeno chips, for example. Like, you, it's like almost you have to have a green bag for jalapeno
You
chips,
do.
otherwise people
You
don't
do.
expect it. And so the sauce color palette to me makes sense because then people can just like, oh, like obviously the burgundy and brown is honey barbecue.
It's a
Yeah.
nice way to signal something, right? Because otherwise, if everything is too homogenous, and I think that's something that we always have to think about too, like when is the convention really appropriate? Similarly to why a logo tends to be like in the middle or the left of a navigation panel on a website,
Yep.
right? Because we're used to it, and it just makes sense because if that was all just blue, white, and red, it would be just hard for people to pick
Yeah.
the sauce out.
Right. You'd reach for barbecue and you'd pick up ranch and you'd be disappointed, right? Like I always think of it like how much do you want to change behavior? And I think usually you don't, right? Like you don't want to go against a natural behavior for people and you want to marry it so it's just an extension of what they're already doing. Um
Right, right. And you wouldn't do that for the boxes themselves because it would just get too crazy. So it's like, where do you make those decisions? And it
yeah.
serves as an accent, which is nice, and people don't always think about this in terms of, packaging because we tend to look at something like, whatever it is, a brochure or, just different panels on a website where you just want those little pops of color. But if you
Mhm.
did it all over the place, it would be a bit of a circus. So, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the slices are great too, the way that they've put those in the upper corner. So it's a
Yeah.
crop, but you get just enough of what you need, then have the clear call to action with that cart, or I can't see from here, but yeah.
I think they could have also had them be dots in the dominoes at some point. Maybe the cart could be like really funny place like, oh, you have 4 domino pieces worth of pizzas.
Oh,
Maybe
that's
that's a
fun.
terrible idea. They should have a Domino's game version like McDonald's has Monopoly.
Oh yeah, although that went kind of haywire, didn't it? They have a documentary about there are people cheating the system or something about not being able to win the actual prizes. Something went haywire there. As long
I'm
as the
sure.
game was not rigged, right?
Yeah, as long as the game's not rigged, Domino's seems extremely poised to like legit have, a merry-go-round of domino pieces that earn you certain points, and if you make a completed train, you get free pizza for a year or something. I don't know. What was
I
McDonald's?
like
A
that
million
though. There's
dollars
something
something?
interesting because they do they touch each other, so it's almost like passing it on and like something like a scavenger hunt or a yeah from one
Yeah. Now
person
we're
to the other, paying it forward kind of a thing.
now we're like
Mhm.
writing Domino's' next marketing playbook.
There we go. Hey, feel free to use that if it's not too dumb of an idea.
Yeah. The other note, the one last note that I had in my notes was that this feels in line with so many other brands that are focusing on their digital expression. I think the color adaptation, like we're 100% moving away from CMYK colors into RGB, right? Like they don't
Hmm.
care if they can print that bright blue or if they can't print it. I think Walmart caught a lot of flack in their update. And it's like, oh, they made the blue brighter, but they also launched a super beautiful system. Amazon's the same. I think everybody's moving to these like brighter, higher impact or like higher attention seizing colors.
Yeah, I mean, print is not dead, but it's
No.
not the focus. I mean, people spend way more time on their phones now at this point
Yeah.
than almost anything else. So to have it in the digital space, yeah, I don't know how much those things were kind of compared. Like I've spent a good amount of time in the creative services or production space as well. And there's a lot that is talked about, what's the core blue here or the core red color, and how does that translate across different printers. But it's just really hard to control ultimately, because it's like if you
Hmm.
don't have the calibration set with every single printer that you're going to use, it's just not going to be exactly the same. So you can try
Yeah.
to control it as much as possible, but yeah, digital first does make sense at this point.
We'll make this like a weird, interesting timestamp. Um, Pizza Hut being in an interesting place where they have sort of it seems like they've half released a new logo in certain parts of the world, but also not released a new logo. I think this Pizza Hut one in the middle with the black letters was done fairly within the last 10 years for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I had seen the agency that did that one as well and the type designer they brought on. Um, but they're in a weird space, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle a bit more with this one, because it's doing some of the same things that Domino's has been doing, but I think that return back to something that they had before, it makes much more sense. Like when you think of what the brand is, like it is a place, whereas Domino's is not. It's more of an idea and something that you
Ooh.
you see in motion. So to have it lean this way, I know a
Mhm.
lot of times like designers will take an italic or a bleak, or in this case a custom rendered font, maybe from a foundation of another font, and have it lean because it's supposed to be progressive or something like that. But
Fast.
it's just it's tricky because it's a hut, it's a structure, so it's kind of odd. It's
Mm,
almost fighting what it wants to be.
yeah.
From
I hadn't thought about the physical. I mean, I had thought about I have this slide in here thinking about like how iconic the buildings are, right? Like they don't even need signs on their buildings, and I can't imagine the resale on them either. Like I feel like you can't hardly resell the building because somebody's going to think you're a Pizza Hut and you're not. But
right,
I hadn't
right.
thought about the tie to the physical structure. Um, it does feel a lot more like a place of gathering, right? Like
It is. It is. It's a hut. I'd even see it as a
that's it.
hat, like pizza hat. Like I could,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, it's so iconic that you don't even need the Pizza Hut on the side of it like that. Like the sign just
yeah,
does that work. Um,
yeah,
Domino's obviously as a name, you have to know that it does pizza,
yeah,
but it's right
yeah.
there in the name. So it is funny to do something else that is departing from, to me, what the concept is, where it's a place that you go. Yeah, there's just a lot going on there. Like it's got almost the Sizzler, Sizzler, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's got
100%.
Sizzler Z's in there, so it's doing that. But it's
Yeah,
just a lot of funk is going on. It's
yeah. I think from, like, a typographic and rendering perspective, the all red one is just, like it's really bad. Um, like, I'm just not sure why the letters feel disproportioned. It's like the second Z feels like they just scaled it down instead of redraw it. They didn't redraw it. The U the weight in the U feels way off compared to what it ought to be, especially when it sits next to the black letter one that it has had apparently since 2019. I had it on my other slide.
wow,
Um,
yeah. I mean,
and I think
it
that
just feels more jumbled. It doesn't feel as coordinated. I mean, like, not to say that all brands need to be super simple and minimal,
Mhm,
like Domino's has gone, especially with this evolution, but it wants to feel all coordinated. And I think all of the expert, like, apparently this is the first Domino's rebrand in like 13 years, and really it
Yeah.
wasn't a major change except for those nuances, but it really is well tied together. Whereas this, I still feel like they're kind of trying to find themselves. It's like on the left, it's like putting the sauce around it, but it's like it's got a
Yeah.
holding shape of sauce, but it's a place. So it's there's some fighting going on, I think, in the
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah, I really think the black letter with the hut it is the answer, maybe not in this format. Like if they want the to not to be a gap in the middle there, like go back to the same typographer who did this version that's like really gorgeous lettering wise and just say like, "Hey, can we get a version where we don't have that gap in the middle? Or if we do, can we make it more active, you know?"
Right.
I think it was Simon Walker, who was brought on by an agency that I will link in the comments,
Okay.
um, who did this
That's great
version.
to
But here,
see.
so I
I
found
haven't
his
seen it.
whole, like he did the whole letter form, the whole alphabet, and
And
it
it's
shows
got
up
this
on all of
retro
their.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it feels so ahead of its time in the nostalgia that it's pulling in. You know, like to have this in 2019 it feels 5 years ahead of everybody else.
And it's something that maybe in this case you lean into it. And I know this is
Yeah.
going to sound funny, but I'm sure we've chatted about this, that sometimes the best rebrand is really not doing something at all. Like if there's something that is actually working, like the way that they did that. To your point, like if you wanted to close up that gap in the U and the Z, you could just find a way to do that. Maybe, put the tail in, but not necessarily interfering with the other letters, so that they're
Hmm.
not fighting each other. But yeah, that retro feel, it feels good now. It actually feels relevant now if you modernize the rest of the system.
Yeah. And I didn't pull in any screenshots of their digital stuff for their advertisements, but they use this typeface really beautifully, like in their advertisements and some of their boxes and packaging. Like it feels, in the new current version, the 2025 maybe teaser launch, feels like it's so departing from those letter forms that
Hmm.
it comes without the system, right? It's like, by the way, we still have these letters that we're using, but we're using this other worse lettering, um, and italic to say we're pizza to go instead of pizza that you come and eat.
Yeah, because you can't really do as much with that. Like in the way that at least there's a relationship, regardless of what we think about, the all caps and condensed versus the kind of friendlier sentence case logo. For
Hmm.
for Domino's, here, maybe there would have been flourishes like you see in the Z or in the H, like that feels like you're tossing pizza under the guise of the hut. So it's like the type of thing that you'd want to do is reinforce that structure, and then the fluidity that's going on, the action in the structure.
Oh
That
yeah,
is
yeah,
something that I would love to see carried through in their branding.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So before we wax poetic too much more, we'll pull in Little Caesars too. Uh, Little Caesars was done fairly recently too, and you talked about a little bit like pulling like the character and the personality, and sometimes brands get, I don't know, they overdo the puns, right?
Yeah,
And Little Caesars feels like it has license to do that, or gave itself a little bit of license to do that.
it did. It's so good, and this is where they've done a really good job of it. Like back in the day, Domino's had the Noid, but they set it up as more of an antagonist. Like we weren't sure what it was, right? Like it kind of looked like a bunny. Like claymation was in vogue at the time, and I still love claymation, but and
Doesn't.
it was like the nemesis, almost like Hamburglar, and maybe people were trying to figure that out with the fast food, but you know, this is our hero, and they've done
Yeah.
such a nice job of making it cute. It's appealing. They were really the first to do that sonic branding with pizza pizza. So
And I think so many people, it's like, even if you're gonna order Domino's, you like say that, right? You're like, what do you want for dinner? I like, I'll have some pizza. And you're like, yeah, pizza, pizza. And
yeah.
it's like you associate Little Caesars, even though you're gonna order something else is so strong, you know.
Yes. The only question I have for Domino's in that regard is because the has long been a staple of Campbell's, if that kind of,
Oh, okay.
if there ends up being a little confusion, because pizza is always going to be Little Caesars. Like the way it's
100%.
said, making it cute and coming from the character. So that would be my only question about Domino's, but it's how they message, right? And the way that it opens up and animates and all that stuff, and the particular Shibuzi like jingle, if you will.
That, like we said, I'm glad that Domino's didn't try to make theirs as playful or as characterized as this, right? Domino's feels a
Yeah,
lot tighter, a lot more
it does.
corporate when it's not corporate in the like boring suit and tie, but it is really corporate in the way it's like it's really tight. It doesn't the Domino's little shirt here is probably the most expressive it gets.
Yep.
Um, and it feels a little out of place, with the rest
It's
of the
funny. It
apparel,
does. It does.
which is
Agreed.
really wild that it's like, okay, well, our parameters are so tight and so, but still inviting. It's like still an inviting brand, um, but it's so tight that there's no way they could get away with this like pineapple on a spear or the little hand reaching in. It's like that feels so like Pink Panther
Oh,
animation to
Rocky
me.
and Bullwinkle, totally.
Yes,
It's that
Rocky and
era of
Bullwinkle. That's right.
animation. Like it
100%.
reminds me of those like fractured fairy tales, those kind of
Yes.
characters that they would have.
Yeah.
But it's just
100%.
so, it's also nicely done. And I think you had mentioned like that hat. I mean, putting a laurel
Oh my
leaf
gosh.
on the hat is just brilliant. It's such a nice
Yeah.
touch there.
I mean,
I don't like
I
one.
don't know if those ever came to fruition, the laurel on the hat there, but man, oh man, should they have ever. And they could have made those in any color and then people would have, bought those up.
I think so. I think so. I like it.
I feel like they just bought a stadium recently.
Really?
Oh, now I'm gonna lose it. I don't know who it is. I think there was a stadium that they started to sponsor, and then there was like a public survey over what to call the stadium. Because like good stadium branding, they come along with good names instead of just the
Sure.
brand name. And we always use, having been in Chicago for so long, we use Wrigley versus the Cell. It was U.S. Cellular for the White Sox, played at U.S. Cellular, and then it was something else for a little bit, and now it's Guaranteed Rate Field, and they didn't even
Oh,
like attempt to name it anything else.
really?
So it's
Oh
just
man,
like
that does drive
the
me crazy.
it was the
That I mean,
it was the joke of Chicago for a while because the logo of Guaranteed Rate Field is a big red down arrow.
oh
So on the
no.
side of the stadium had this huge down red arrow that you drive by at the Sox
Oh
losing
man.
field. So I remember when I think it was Little Caesars bought a stadium and there was a bunch of, I don't know, public opinion about what they ought to call it, what they ought to not nickname it. I thought
Honestly,
they'd
it
just
should be
call it the Coliseum. I feel like that would have been the easiest
sure, or
one.
like
Somebody said the box. That was a good one.
the box, or like the double exclamation point. Like just have two symbols, like Prince,
Yeah.
But it's weird. There is a trend of that going on. Not to get off into the stadium commentary, but like we had, the Staples Center in LA, and it became Crypto.com. And I always think it's really funny when they put a internet oriented URL extension, basically on on a stadium. It's weird. It's like merging two
Yes.
different worlds that almost don't belong together.
So a quick Google has it as the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Pistons play at Little
Oh,
Caesars Arena.
interesting.
That's
I
all they
mean,
got. Like Little Caesars
that
Arena. Like, come on.
it,
Come
it
on.
works. It's descriptive. I mean, but it works better to me than something that's like, got a URL, a domain basically like attached to it.
www.orderpizza.com.
Oh yeah, it's just so bizarre to me. So yeah, I would like to see that. It would be fun if there was a nod to the brand, but it wasn't just. I mean, even if it was some hierarchical thing like blah 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 stadium by Little Caesars, so you
Yeah.
could have the endorsement there, but have more fun with the name. So
Yeah.
there
That's
will
why.
always be that association.
So it'll be interesting. Maybe Domino's will buy a stadium next and it'll be Domino's.
Dot.
I don't. Domino's.com. No, it'll be Domino's. It'll just
Yeah,
be
there you go.
with the
Or
three
just
M's
the
in the middle, right?
stadium, you know?
Stadium.
Why
Stadium.
stadium, stadium.
We got it.
I think that's
I'll
it.
take we'll take our royalties, Domino's, whenever you buy the stadium. Okay, before we let this episode get too long, which it probably already has, any
Okay.
final thoughts before we head out?
No, I've enjoyed doing this with you. This is super fun.
Cool.
It's easier in a sense to do something like this because we can just have more fun talking about what ifs and potentials, rather than tearing
Mhm.
something apart. And I never really like to do that because I know how much effort it really takes, but it's just great to see something that has really been thought through because I don't feel like that's always the case. Sometimes we're
Mhm.
grappling with like design by committee and you end up having some sort of cobbled together
100%.
identity. So this is such a rare
Yeah.
treat, and I've enjoyed doing this with you.
Yeah,
Thanks
awesome.
for having me on.
Cool. I mean, like you said, it's really fun to start with one that is basically all praise, a couple what ifs because we're designers and we have to ask what if.
Yeah,
Um, and also like an interesting state compared to Pizza Hut and some others that seem a little bit lost at the moment. But awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, Miles. I'll be sure to put a bunch of links in the description of the agencies and people that I tried to reference, but probably failingly referenced. It's hard to like manage the slides and also pull up all the 50 tabs that I've got open, but those will all be in the description. If you haven't l- subscribed to the channel, subscribe to this one and also go and find Miles. I'll put your stuff in the description of the video too.
thank
Um,
you.
and until the next episode, talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Have some good pizza.
Have some good, hopefully not too cold pizza.
Oh well, it's sitting there. I'll put it back in the oven later.
All right. Thanks much.
Thank you.